Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fessich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gonzalez from the Cult of Pedagogy podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hello, EduMagicians, and welcome back to another episode of the EduMagic podcast. Today, I have with me another co-author of the book EduMagic Shine On. Her name is Katy Gibson, and we met 3-something years ago. She was a former student of mine in a class called Tech of Instruction, and I just remember Katy always impressing me with the awesome work that she would turn in and the quality of the content that she would do. We ended up going to a whole bunch of conferences together. I'm going to say we attended ed camps, we've done workshops, we've done it all. We went to a conference in New Jersey. We've done a couple of e-sets together, and Katy rocked it during her college career. Katy has a really interesting story because she has been a first-year teacher, I'm going to say twice, because she was one in Virginia and then one here in Pennsylvania. She's going to share a little bit about her story with us today. Katy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm excited to get to talking about education for new teachers.
Woo-hoo. Yes, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Katy, can you walk us through your teaching journey?
So I originally went to college and didn't think I was going to be a teacher. I was started off as a electrical engineer. I wasn't passionate about it though, so I started looking at different avenues and talking to some friends. And education was on the back of my mind always. And as I was searching to see, okay, maybe education is what I want to do, and I looked at the elementary cert, I looked at the middle level cert, and the high school secondary cert, and I really liked math and science, so I was kind of like, okay, elementary, maybe not my thing. Then I kind of looked at the middle level and secondary, and I told myself, I feel like my personality, I don't have as much patience for secondary, and I like the stage of middle school because I feel it's kind of the forgotten stage of life because people don't particularly gravitate towards that cert. And I absolutely love it. I love, the kids are great and they're fun. They still enjoy school and they're, it's an interesting stage in their life. And I really enjoy teaching middle school students.
And I'm so glad you're there for that stage in their life. We all know what I hear often is, oh, you teach middle school. And then there's like this facial expression that happens like, oh, but
oh my gosh. Every time.
Yeah, but you're right. This is an interesting time going on in their lives, and I'm so glad they have a teacher like you to be a part of it. So after you graduate, you've done all your coursework, you've graduated. Tell me about that first year teaching. And just so my audience knows, you're also doing another first year, kind of, in Pennsylvania this year. So tell us about your whole journey from graduation to where you are now.
Okay. So after graduation, I went down to Virginia, near DC area, and it was so wonderful. I mean, I just love that first year, but it was hectic, and there was a lot going on with I had almost 30 kids a class, which I was not ready for. So I wouldn't say I wasn't prepared. It's just, I wasn't expecting how much, those extra 5 kids or 8 kids make in a classroom. And it was really overwhelming, and I learned a lot classroom management we're always learning about. That was a big thing I had to learn my first year is the classroom management piece. And then I did that first year, but then I ended up moving to central Pennsylvania, and I was a paraprofessional for the past year with a learning support classroom. And it was another great learning experience for me because I got to see firsthand what's, going on in those pull-out classes and what those teachers have to do when they're pushed into the classes to help students with IEPs. And it was another eye-opener that helps me as an educator to know what to do when I'm back in the regular ed classroom last year to be prepared for those students and how to meet their needs. And I learned a lot of different new techniques to use in the classroom. This year, I am back as a full-time teacher, which is super exciting. And I'm teaching 6th grade science and social studies. And it's it's yet again, I'm going from the first year was more of a city atmosphere, and now I'm back into a rural community. And so I kind of call myself a utility player because I'm getting to know a lot of different things going on, and it's fun. I mean, my favorite thing that my student told me that I wasn't ready for yet was he told me he forgot to do his homework because he had to bale hay over the weekend, which I wasn't ready for. So it's interesting. I'm like, I just came from the city 2 years ago from the DC area, and now my kiddos are telling me they're baling hay over the weekend. And it's fun. It's, I'm totally continuing learning about the students and such, because building that rapport piece, oh man. I mean, I can't stress enough to new teachers about building rapport with your students.
So beyond building a rapport with your students and getting to know them as individuals, what other advice do you have for new teachers who might be in their 4th month? This is November, and they're about to get their long break. What advice do you have for them?
Take care of yourself. Not saying to put your job on the side, but I remember, and even right now, because I'm back as not a first year because it's technically my 2nd year, but it feels like my first year again, is to remember to have time for yourself, because sometimes, especially in the month of November, we are so ready for Q2 and you're ready to take it on, but then you're piling up so much going on in your life because you're building a curriculum, making sure you're building rapport with your kiddos, and you're communicating with those parents. But remember too, you have to take care of yourself, because if you can't put on your own air mask, like an airplane, then you can't help those students in need. So it's just making sure you're taking care of yourself, especially in this month, because it's like the drag until we have that first break. And I can't stress that enough for new teachers, is to just self-care and such, because this is my, you want to say 3rd year in education, but 2nd year as a full-time teacher, and I still have to work on self-care and sometimes not always saying yes to everything that comes my way.
And that is really hard to do as a teacher, not saying yes to everything.
Yeah, because you just want to help everyone, but sometimes it's not that you're failing as an individual or failing as an educator. It's just you have to sometimes remember, take care of yourself first.
Right. Now, Katy, we have a book coming out at the end of November. Why did you decide to get in on this project? Why is this a passion project of yours?
So this is a passion project for me because my first year I had a really great mentor, and he was awesome and really helped me out. But the one piece that I really wish I had my first year was talking to other educators that were going through that first year. Because there were some other teachers in the building that were new to the building, but they weren't technically first year teachers. So we couldn't, talk about what was going on in the classroom and kind of have that community based. And I feel that's really important, is to build that community with other people that are going through the same thing you are, is really important, because it also kind of is stress relief for you to know, oh, that's also happening to you in your classroom, and kind of talking about that with them. Because when I would connect with those educators, it would just kind of take a weight off my shoulders to know I'm not the only person going through that at the time. So not only is it important to have a mentor, but it was important for me to have that community. And I feel like that's what this book gives me, or gives others. Hopefully that's what my hope is to hear stories from me, Hannah Turk, and Hannah Sampson, just have that space for people to say, oh, that happened to them, or have some connection with us to help them through their first year. And maybe their mentor might not be as supportive, because I know that's also sometimes a concern. And I hope that this book helps them as well, because it's just needing assistance, to kind of guide you, to make you feel like you're not alone and they're not the only person going through that. Because I think that's sometimes why we have burnout and such, because we as educators, we're in our classrooms all day, and sometimes we don't get to talk to others. I felt like it was actually nice to talk to my other coworkers about what I was going through, because that actually would lift a weight off my shoulders.
Absolutely. I love that you talked about the importance of feeling not alone, and how that might be a cause of burnout if teachers feel like they're the only ones, new teachers feel like they're the only ones going through this. The first year is hard, and everyone goes through it. You have ups and downs, you have peaks and valleys, but hopefully this book will help encourage and support and be a mentor to those who may have a great mentor in addition to, and supplement some of the material, but also be able to lift up those who are going through it, who are in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So when I read through EduMagic Shine On, a guide for new teachers, what would be the chapter that you say speaks to your heart the most?
you're putting me on the spot, is the one that we have a lot of stories about some emotional needs that will come up with students and some big obstacles that might come your way. Because yet again, I know I keep coming back to this, but when I had some big obstacles that I talk about in the book that came my way, it was like emotionally weighed on my heart. And, how do you in that moment not feel like a failure? And you just can't, it's hard because I'm just thinking about the situation now is you have to just reflect and know that you're doing all that you can. You are doing all you can. As long as you are, you're trying to build rapport, you're researching about what to help that student with. And maybe you won't reach that kid tomorrow or in a month or, whatever else, but just know you're doing all you can. And that's all anyone could ask of you.
I like that. Know that you're doing all that you can do to reach those students. And you may not get feedback tomorrow, next week, next month, maybe even next quarter. You share about that in the book. I think we all become very vulnerable in the book and share those stories that have impacted our teaching. So as we end our conversation today, Katy, what piece of advice do you have for new teachers who are just starting their career?
So my advice, something I wish I would have done my first year, was to reflect on my lesson plans more. I have a planner and I started doing it in the beginning of the year, but something I would suggest is, reflecting in your journal or something so you can look upon it in the next year and say, oh yeah, I remember that. I think you're going to remember, but there's so many things going on in the classroom that coming next year, it's like, oh shoot, I know something happened, but I can't remember what went wrong with this lesson. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is to make sure you're reflecting or writing it down somewhere, because unfortunately as educators, we do remember a lot, but there's so much to remember that you can't take it all in.
Right. I like that, reflecting on your lessons, whether it just be a couple bullet points or a sticky note or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next question is, what advice do you have for students who might be graduating in December and they're looking for their first teaching job in January?
Do your best to do your research about a school before you go. I know it's really exciting because it's your first position that if you get offered something, but make sure you're doing your research before you go in a certain area or in a certain school climate. Look online, make sure it's a good fit for you, because we all have a certain passion. Just do your research about the school, maybe find out what they have to offer as support as well. Ask a lot of questions about your mentor or going to a position, because you want to make sure you have a supportive mentor going in that first year, and ask them what that might look like. What is my mentor required? What does that look like as a mentor and a new teacher partnership? Because in each school, it varies. In each district, it varies on what they do to support their new teachers. So make sure you ask questions and know what you're going to be supported on and what you're not, because that is a very important piece of your first year.
Thank you, Katy. Thanks so much for your time today. How can my audience get in touch with you? Because I know they're going to want to.
Okay, so on my Instagram, it is Katy in the Middle. I love that just title. I feel like it embodies what I'm passionate about.
Well, congratulations on the book, and thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be a part of this.
There you have it, EduMagicians, another episode of the EduMagic podcast. Thanks, Katy, for sharing advice for new teachers and the power of reflection. EduMagicians, I know you're excited about EduMagic Shine On. I am too, so you can pre-order it over on Amazon or head on over to the show notes. There you'll find a link to a form that you can fill out to be up to date on the most recent happenings for launch day, November 27th. I can't wait to share this new book with you. Have a great day, and remember, you have the EduMagic within you.
There you have it, EduMagicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more EduMagic, check out sfessage.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram @sfessage. Until next time, you have the EduMagic within you.